Well, here we are then, 25 years in the business, a major British tour, and now a month in London. Still a lot of very hard work. Do you still get a big kick out of it, Cliff?
Oh, yeah, I do. I don't think one can actually survive for this length of time on boredom. I mean, I think that people that get bored become boring, you know, and I think one of the reasons why I've managed to sustain it all is because someone said to me only a couple of days ago, you know, what are you going to do now? You know, what they don't realize is that you never ever beat this industry. That just when you think you've got it taped, you know, Boy George comes along and you think, oh, crud, here we go again. More competition, and therefore there's always that challenge constantly there.
But it is all continuous hard work, though, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I don't think you're going to let up at all because, you know, if you're going to be seriously involved in it, you've got to compete. And the only way you can compete is by going on and on and on and doing it and thinking new things and trying to get new sounds and trying to find new ways of presenting them.
Could you bend forward just a little bit, Cliff? Sorry. I don't see any grey hairs in there at all.
There are a couple.
There's not a touch of the old Grecian 2000 or anything there.
No, I'm tempted sometimes because I've got 3 or 4 that have come through recently. But in point of fact, if only 3 or 4 come through, I mean, some people pay to have it done, don't they?
That's right, to put them in, yes. They're putting too much grey in my hair these days, is the in phrase, I think.
Yes, right.
Let me just take you right back. I actually only discovered recently that you were born in India. So how old were you when you came to Britain?
Do you know, I thought for a minute you were going to say, how old were you when you were born? I came to Britain in 1948, which made me 8. Once I'd got here, I came here in September 1948. In October, I was 8. So I was pretty young, really.
And what do you remember about India? I mean, is a lot of it still quite vivid?
Yeah, there are some aspects of it that are very, very vivid. I mean, I can remember the sort of summer holidays. They were always spent with 2 of both grandparents, you know. And one in particular was, we'd get on a train. And to this day, I'll never know, because I wrote a book about it, too. And I could never remember whether some of the things I've made up in my imagination and now they've become firm memories. But I can remember the train ending on buffers, and that was it. We got off onto grass and walked about a mile to my grandmother's home, which was right in the middle of nowhere. And then sort of spent the day swimming in an old, well, I suppose we could call it a lake. They called it a tank there, which is a muddy old thing. And I remember monkeys. I never knew that monkeys swam, but I, to this day, believe that monkeys can swim underwater because I used to watch them jump in, all holding onto tails and all that, and then come up the other side. Now, that's what I mean. It's a memory to me, and I'm not sure that could possibly have happened, and yet it's in my head. And flying kites in India, they have it's an art form out there. It's not just like a kite that you pull up and then hope that it stays up with enough wind. They kind of maneuver it, and they fight, and they put stuff on the string that makes it glass, in fact, ground glass and egg white. And then you then drop your kite on someone else's string, and you let your kite go and hack it off. And if you can catch his kite, you've got it. So, I mean, remember all those kind of aspects.
What was your father doing there? What was he working at?
My father worked for a catering firm. And he was an area manager, so he traveled around a lot. And it was a firm that had got the concession on the railways. So, you know, we were connected with railways.
And those railway systems are supposed to be tremendous in India.
Oh, well, they were. I mean, they were the lifeblood of the place, really. And again, as a child, I can only remember when we left, we traveled for, it seemed like 3 or 4 days on a train from Calcutta, I guess it would have been, to Bombay, where we caught the boat. But you see, for me, it was all just one great adventure. I'm sure for my mum and dad, it was an absolute murderous journey.
Well, that obviously seemed to be quite a privileged background in India, you know, despite poverty and so on. But when you came here, initially, didn't your father have to go through very hard times?
We left India because of home rule, of course, and if you were a British, it was becoming a little embarrassing to be out there, and a bit dangerous. So my father wisely uprooted and left. And we were talking about coming home, isn't it funny? I can to this day remember saying, we're going home to Blighty. I'd never seen the place. My mum and dad were both born out there, and yet England was home. And we came from comparative wealth, really, with my father arrived apparently with £5 sterling. I suppose it was worth a bit more in those days, but not much. Not much, when you've got a family of 5. My youngest sister hadn't been born then, so it was a tough time for him. Of course, just after the war, too, it was all the rationing, and there were no jobs going around. So I'm grateful, really, to have gone through that with my parents, because now when people say to me, oh, it's all right for you, I smirk to myself and say, they can't say that to me, because I've been through all of that, and therefore I can relate to the unemployment that's happening now and say, but although I've never been unemployed, I know for a fact that my father went through the most horrific time. And I remember my mother crying night after night because there was no money, no jobs, nothing. So I can relate to it all, even if I don't experience it at this moment.
Your father seems to have been a very proud man, because didn't he even make use of all the packing cases and everything that you brought from India?
I know. I remember the first, when we got a council house, we'd somehow jumped the queue because our situation was, and this is what, again, adds fire to the fuel for me. People always think that we are privileged, and we've always been privileged, and some of us are privileged, but we've come from incredible backgrounds, real duff backgrounds. And my father's situation was that the money was so low anyway that he couldn't afford to buy furniture, and at first he refused to go on the Never Never. He did succumb eventually, but the first furniture we had in the council house was made out of packing cases that television sets were wrapped up in, you know, and they were being thrown out. So for 5 shillings he bought a packing case, or a couple of them, and built us our first set of furniture. And as I was going to say, we jumped the queue in a way because our situation was so bad. We were living in one room, 6 of us at this time. My younger sister was born, so the room was our dining room, our toilet, everything happened in this one little room, and a neighbor saw what it was like, and said, look, I've got a friend in the council, and I ought to bring them down to look at your situation. As soon as they saw how we were living, they said, you can't live like this. Instead of waiting 10 years, I think we waited a couple of years, and we got a council house, and it was like moving into a palace.
I can imagine.
I mean, I can't tell you, I can remember those moments so vividly.
So when you went to school here in England, were you one of the bright sparks around? Were you awfully good at your schoolwork?
I was until I reached the age of 11. I remember being in the primary school. I was the number 2 in the school. I got beaten by a girl. You know, it was ridiculous. She was the best pupil in the school, and I was second best. And I got my book and my prize and everything. Then I took my 11 plus, and I failed. I couldn't believe it. All these people that were like 30 passed and went to grammar schools, which goes to show that there is a theory about exams, that some people can't take exams, and it seems I fall into that category. Whereas I was quite bright at school, the exam just absolutely crushed me. My nerves got the better of me, and I failed it miserably and went to a secondary modern school. But, you see, Gloria, I wouldn't change anything now, because I firmly believe that what you go through today kind of makes you what you are tomorrow. And I like what I am at the moment, you know. I like what I am as a person, I like what I am as a career. And so I always feel that if I ever thought back and said, oh, I'd like to have passed my 11 plus, that would have changed. There would have been a whole chain of events that would have changed, and I might never have done what I'm doing now.
What is it they say, part of the rich mosaic of life?
Yeah, right. It's certainly been rich in my case. I've enjoyed every second of it, though.
I can imagine you at school, though. I mean, at that time, presumably, you had great ambitions of performing. I mean, were you in front of the mirror, so practicing your image and all of that?
Morning by morning. I mean, school was something to get through, really. So that you'd get to the evening, you know, and I used to do some dreadful things to the hair, you know. I mean, that Brill cream was plastered in it, and I don't know if any guys are watching, because some of the hairstyles are coming back, but, you know, when you comb your hair with that much Brill cream on, if you look at the comb, you're ill, because it's kind of grey.
Yes, thank you. It's almost tea time, Cliff. That was very good of you to remind us of that, yes. Actually, I'm going to remind you, though, as if you need any reminder, I suppose, of that original image, because we have a little piece of film here that goes back just 1 or 2 years.
Oh, really?
Have a look at this, as they would say.
Now for #1 world male singer, the one and only Cliff Richard.
I like the little one on the knee there sleeping. You're obviously having a great impact there.
I used to have a terrific impact on my audiences.
I like that bit of hair sort of swinging around in the front. That might be a new fashion.
The funny thing is, I had all my hair cut off recently. You know, for a long time, the musical press, and a lot of people, in fact, kind of written me off as being predictable, and I've never been predictable, really. If you look at my records, they've changed almost annually. And so this year I thought, I'll show them. And I had all my album sleeve done, loads of pictures taken by Lord Snow.
I mean, does it bother you that presumably you can never get away from fans?
I don't think that aspect of it is too bad, because in point of fact, one of the perks of this industry is that you earn enough money to get away and do anything you want, really. You know, it's no good us moaning and saying, I used to remember people saying, oh, it's lonely at the top, and, oh, you know, I can't do all the things normal people do. But you're not in this industry to do what normal people do. The whole fact, from my point of view, is that you get on stage and immediately, night after night, I mention it anyway, that we live in 3-minute fantasies, you know? And I love it, it's fantastic. But it leads to the situation where people look to you as something different, because what you do is something they can't do, but they enjoy it and relate to you vicariously, you know?
Do your locals, though, allow you a bit of privacy around your own home?
The locals do, actually. I mean, I live southwest of London in Surrey, and it's really great. It took a while, only a couple of years, mind you. You're talking about a couple of years where if I went to the supermarket, I did get bothered for autographs. Now, because I'm seen regularly in the village and the town, I don't get bothered. I mean, okay, it depends. You know, if you've got record, you know, We Don't Talk Anymore went to #1 of the charts, so I'm suddenly surrounded by kids who want autographs. But you expect that. I mean, I I can't expect anything different. But if I want total privacy, I shut the gate of my home. And I can have the privacy that I want. Or I can take a plane and fly to somewhere where they don't know me or where there's less people.
I must just quickly ask you, because we've got to finish in a second, about your tennis. What's this Pro-Am that you're going to play fairly soon?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. I forgot all about that. When I met Sue, we talked about doing a pro-celebrity tennis thing to raise money for British tennis, you know, and plough it back into young people, maybe people who don't get a chance to show their potential. And so Sue and Joe Jury, Ann Hobbs, hopefully Virginia if she's in the country, but if not, the captain of Whiteman Cup will play. The top 4 girls, in other words. Hank Marvin, myself, Mike Reed from Radio 1, and another. We haven't got... Elton couldn't do it, he's out the country. David Essex couldn't do it, he's out the country. Davy Jones goes and starts in a pantomime on the very night, and he's terribly keen to play. So we've got a lot of people offering. So in about a week's time, we'll know definitely who will be the 4th celebrity. And it's on the 19th of December at the Brighton Conference Centre.
Well,
I mean, it's going to be my first time all shorts in public.
You're not going to give us a quick preview of the knee, are you?
No, but there's more to be revealed, but I'll give you that much.
Oh,
but I don't think I'm going to wear those socks on the court.
I don't think you should either. Glitter doesn't really go down very well
No.
at Pro-Ams. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you.